So a personality type that is obviously pretty similar to INFPs is the ENFP personality type. And while it's not really as simple as saying that an ENFP is the extroverted version of an INFP, because that's not really the nature of the shadow functions, I do find that if I'm, for instance, really drunk, I do act a bit like an ENFP, which makes sense, I guess, because as an INFP, you're using extroverted intuition in a really strong way as your parent function, which is the hero function of the ENFP. But there have been many occasions, especially when I was younger, where the INFP would be a lot more of an extroverted sort of person and the ENFP would sometimes be a much more introverted sort of person. And I guess what it comes down to is that the extroverted function of an ENFP is still this very abstract thing called extroverted intuition. Just like ENTPs, their heads are kind of filled with a million ideas, but that's not to say that people outside of themselves can see that. Either way, I find that ENFPs are very literate people, very articulate people, very good communicators. They can be fantastic writers and actors, and they can actually be fantastic musicians. But I do find that ENFPs don't sort of get that stereotype of being a bit of a morose sort of literate writer type, even though a lot of the ENFPs I know are like that. But of course, just like any personality type, your personality type is not your personality behavior. And I do find that like ENFPs can be very, very deep people and very artistic and super creative, let's say hyper creative. I would say that the reason that INFPs get a bit more of a stereotype of being artistic or writers or that kind of thing, I guess comes down to the fact that ENFPs perhaps don't focus quite as well as a lot of INFPs, although you'll get INFPs who focus worse than ENFPs, just depends on the person. And I guess there have been experiences where I've found ENFPs either have a million projects going at once and they're somehow able to actually run all those projects at the same time, but they are a bit less likely to limit themselves to just one project and just focus on that one because it's not actually helpful for them. And anyway, I don't feel like you should ever really lean into your inferior function. Instead, I feel like you should just get it up to a certain point where it's helpful. For instance, I think INFPs should only use introverted sensing and extroverted thinking in very limited doses when they're trying to be creative, because it can actually just kill the creative spark. And I do find with ENFPs who are creative that they're a bit more successful if they do the minimum introverted sensing and instead they sort of jump from project to project to keep their mind active. Like for an ENFP, they just need to have these multiple ideas all going at the same time and interlocking. And I think for ENFPs, they really do need these multiple ideas all working together at the same time for them to be in a sort of creative flow mode. Whereas I think an INFP can exhaust themselves a little bit quicker than an ENFP, but they can still have maybe two projects at the same time going and they can bounce between the two, and it's pretty helpful for the INFP. Either way, for myself as an INFP, having ENFPs around always inspires me quite a lot because they just have a little bit less caution and fear, which is often what an INFP needs. They need a little bit of that extroverted intuition, hope, and encouragement. And I think similarly, ENFPs often feel kind of inspired by the discipline of the INFP. But I do find it a bit odd that the ENFP stereotype of someone who's easily distracted and kind of partying all the time and doesn't focus, well, there's a little bit of truth in it, but really I find most ENFPs to be incredibly deep thinkers and to take things pretty seriously, and they take life really seriously in my experience. I don't know if it's just because I'm a bit older. So anyway, I just thought I would make this video and see what you think about ENFPs and what your experience with ENFPs has been, because I just find, the stereotypes a little bit off. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments and I'll see you next time.